just gonna put this photo up, if I can, make it look nice, just so you have something to look at while I speak. So, yeah, just that video, honestly, that was filmed over the last few weeks, just kind of documenting the process, because you always look back and wish you took more pictures, so I wanted to document it as much as I could. And that last clip that I was getting kind of emotional is when I kind of realized what was happening, because I've been so caught up in everything, you know, just making moves, trying to get it all done. And that was the first time where I was kind of looking at the camera and I kind of forgot what I was doing, and I looked down and I was like signing my mom's book, and like it just was one of those moments, you know, that I'll never forget that moment. And I also have a Polaroid of me like signing, like holding up the Sharpie for the first one, and I'll never forget that either. So I just want to show you a bit of the journey of how we got here.
You
so
use the microphone?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the microphone for the speech. Is this okay?
Yeah, you good. Yeah, we good.
I think, okay. You guys can hear me? All right. So, here we go. Story living, storytelling. I believe that life must be a balance of living stories and telling them, existing and expressing, creating moments and capturing them with light on film or with pen and paper. There are millions of stories to tell and a million ways to tell each one. But the greatest story you will ever know is your own. You are all here tonight to hear about the story that I've told, the Bandana Boy. But first, I want to share with you some of the stories that I've lived. For you all to understand me as a human being would be an honor. But my wish is that you can take that personal comprehension of who I am and apply it to the words that I've written to better understand me as an author. From cover to cover, I created a world to create within. But I've been creating myself in this world for my entire life. I believe that it is an injustice to simplify the complexities of the human existence down to a synopsis or summary, but I can promise you, we don't have 24 years tonight to relive every moment of mine, so we'll skim through the pages. And we're gonna start where it left off and where we are here today in Manchester High School. When I entered high school, my parents got divorced, and I learned that life was not perfect. At 16 years old, my best friend passed away in an accident, and I learned that life was not permanent. I found myself in a constant state of introspection, which led to a pervasive sense of isolation. I was so focused on trying to find myself that I was becoming lost to the world around me. I saw life then as I see life today, as a story. But I didn't know how to begin writing mine, nor did I know what I wanted it to be about. The awareness and understanding that you are holding the metaphorical pen in your life comes with a daunting pressure, a suffocating freedom of choice, where every word placed on the page feels plagiarized. It is much easier to convince ourselves that it is the universe that is the author, and that we are merely the protagonists. But philosophies aside, I've always known that I wanted my story to be an enigma. I was afraid of being labeled or defined. I didn't want anyone to rob me of my sacred individuality. It's a paradoxical uniqueness. It's a paradox because it is something rare that we all share. So I decided that I wanted my life story to be a fantasy. All I wanted was to chase dreams, and I didn't care at all where they took me. I stand here today and I can say that I am thankful and humbled by the reality that you encounter while you chase a dream. I've always had a hustler's mentality when it comes to money. You starve so that one day you can feast. My mom can attest that hustle is in my blood. I once wrote in her birthday card that I couldn't think of any words to write, but if I saw a raise in my allowance, I might come up with a few things. I have never been a paper chaser just for the sake of chasing paper, though. I've always understood the greater significance of the dollar. It meant freedom. It allowed me to escape. And best believe I would do whatever I had to do in order to be able to do whatever I wanted to do. Once I graduated from these halls, I jumped headfirst into 60-hour work weeks. And over the years, I haven't slowed down much at all, to be honest. The hours worked are as numerous as the jobs that I've held. I've worked for a moving company. I was a slow-pitch softball umpire, a banquet server, a tennis instructor. I've worked for an after-school program. I've waited tables. I've coached and reffed and kept score for youth basketball games. I've done yard maintenance. I've sold calendars. I've sold empanadas. I've been a photographer's assistant, a digital cataloger, a freelance writer, and that's just to name a few. So I used to tutor people for the SATs, even though I forgot my calculator and my glasses when I took them. And to this day, I still return plastic bottles for 5 cents a pop. Some of my jobs were more interesting than others. like being an extra in movies, interning at a creative ad agency in Argentina, or writing reviews for an Icelandic travel company. And I've never even been to Iceland. The point is, no matter what I did with pride, because I saw my effort as a direct reflection of my hunger for my dreams. I never took a dollar for granted, nor an opportunity to make another. I had a cleaning job once at a gym during the winter, and when I tried to quit, they offered me a raise. Apparently, they passed the health inspection for the first time, and I'm still not sure how I feel about that. I still quit though, but I never saw a job as below or above me. Now, cleaning toilets and sweaty gym equipment was not the highlight of my professional career, but it instilled a humility in me. And on the opposite end of the spectrum lies my most luxurious line of work, what you guys may be familiar with if you follow me on social media, commercial modeling. Now, this opportunity presented itself in a time of desperation, where I was searching for a way to work smarter and not harder. And it came in the form of an ad on the radio promising stardom. In hindsight, it was more of a scam than a solution, but it opened a door for me just wide enough for me to squeeze myself through it. The modeling industry was unlike any world I'd ever been a part of. It was cold and pretentious, but it was lucrative, and it was filled with stories. Most of the people I came across who were modeling to try and become somebody. I never wanted to be anybody else, I just wanted to be me with more money. My dream was to experience what it was like to live that life, and I found the success hidden in the struggle. The first and last lesson that being a professional model taught me was of rejection, of being humbled by denial, collecting your no's without becoming bitter, and not overreacting to your yeses. I learned that raw vulnerability was a strength because it's relatable, it's human, it's natural and refreshing. I think that I was contracted for the jobs that I was because I never tried to force the idea that I deserved the job. I understood myself to be fortunate and blessed just to have had the opportunity in front of me. And that's all I could ask for. I never confused my personal fortune with self-worth. I could see how circumstantial and fluctuating it all really was. Ultimately, I enjoyed my experience profoundly, mainly because I was not worried about where it would take me, but rather convinced myself to just enjoy the ride. I didn't want to take myself too seriously. After all, the first modeling job I ever got paid to do was for the cover of Connect 4, where I had to pretend to be losing. And all of my friends and family still do not let me live it down. Over the years, I have had the privilege to collaborate with some recognizable names. I did a campaign with Coca-Cola, shot with Hanes, worked with Keurig, Puma, Reebok, Adidas, Forever 21, MAC Cosmetics, but it was hard not to constantly seek validation, but not from others, but from myself. I was chasing a dream, but how did I know when I finally caught it? Once I knew what it was like, when could I stop? It seemed many of my accomplishments also came accompanied by an asterisk. For example, the back of my head made an appearance on Saturday Night Live for about a full second. My hands and my torso were published in GQ magazine. And Google Pixel put me on a billboard, but the photo was funnier than it was impressive. I didn't want to think people thought I was cool for what they perceived me to be accomplishing in my career. I wanted them to think it was cool to be chasing the dream, regardless of the outcome. The concept of success was too comparative. Some days I felt like I was winning, some days I felt like I was losing, but I constantly reminded myself that life is just like that old television show, Whose Line Is It Anyways?, where the rules are made up and the points don't matter. Now allow me to digress briefly by asking you all to observe my left arm. By now you are all well aware of my philosophies on dreams and stories. So it should be no surprise that my tattoos represent dreams that have been actualized and that one day, I hope, will tell my whole life story. I have a tattoo for moving to California, a tattoo for being a model, a tattoo for learning Spanish, and I have one tattoo that is temporary. Well, the ink is real, bled beneath my skin, but the dream can never be fulfilled because the desire to travel is insatiable. Lost ones is what it says. My hope is that I remain lost forever, perpetually curious about being alive. The question, what would it be like, almost inevitably leads to the question, how did I get here? My dream of traveling the world has taken me to nearly 60 countries, filled my passport, and afforded me a lifetime of vivid memories. As the world spun, I did my best to spin with it. I backpacked through India, camped across Africa, followed my heart through Europe, translated my way through South and Central America, sailed on a yacht around the Mediterranean, and slept in my car across the entire country. Where I've been holds little significance, though, to why did I go? And that answer usually changed from before I left on the trip to when I got back. To tell you why I travel or why somebody should travel would just be conjecture. I don't know, and there isn't one right answer. The world has its reasons for why it moves. We travel to be lost. We travel to be found. We travel to find energy. We travel to find the silence. We travel to be close. We travel to be far away. We travel to reflect, and we travel to forget. We travel to have an experience that no one can ever take from us. We travel because we want our real lives to be as amazing as the lives that we live every day in our mind. We travel because ultimately, today is that day in the faded photo that we will reminisce upon. Traveling is more often a mirror than a window. Now I'll say that again because it's important. Traveling is more of a mirror than it is a window. It's not just a view of the outside world. It is the reflection of you within it. Now, maybe the reason I've traveled to the places I went was for the stories I knew I would live along the way. But now that I have my stories, I need to start telling them. I've told some stories through photography, through blogs and poems and podcasts, music, and now I've told a story with a cover. And it is the reason we're all here today. This is my ultimate attempt to achieve equilibrium on the scales of story living and storytelling. The Bandana Boy revolves around a boy who is held hostage by his destiny, obsessed with his story, written by a boy desperate to tell one. This book is not about my life, but it has become a part of my life. An amorphous tale that has transformed and rewritten itself over and over again. A novel filled with glimpses of stories, ideas, and philosophies that I've presented here today. What better way could I convince you of the value of my book? A book about a boy whose dreams dictate his story than by sharing with you the dreams that are writing the story of the boy on the stage today. I want to leave you with some final words. Words that many of you have written already above my signature in the book that you hold in your hands. I implore you to embrace every fleeting moment of this precious life while it still breathes. Cherish the memories and reminisce vividly. Absorb every experience. Be porous. Be a sponge. And remember, life is a story lived and a story told. Thank you.